Right, I think we can get started. Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to introduce the speaker for today on creating a mobile app design for research. My name is Omar Casillas, and today's presenter will be Lauren Colin. She is a product designer at the Office of Advanced Research Computing. Lauren is the UCLA Mobile Web Research Group's design lead, creating product designs, interactive prototypes, illustrations, animations, branding, and marketing graphics. The designs Lauren creates for innovative mobile and web applications, platforms, and advanced data visualization tools are used by UCLA's academic and research communities. Lauren is also an instructor at UCLA Extension. Lauren teaches Illustrator in the Design Communication Arts program. So without further ado, Lauren Colin.
Well, thanks, Omar, for the introduction. I appreciate it. And thank you, everyone, for joining me today. I'm excited to show you an overview of a case study of a research app design that we're currently working on. So I'll start with giving you some background on the research, and then I'll show you how that's translated into a design. And then I'll show you the actual design files so you can see how interactive prototypes work. At the end, I'll take any of your questions. I'll leave some time at the end for your questions. So let's get started. So the research study is called Spiral Notebook. It's funded by the National Science Foundation with the principal investigator in the School of Education at UCLA and at the University of Notre Dame. The app and web platform are tools that enable elementary and middle school STEM teachers to collect, annotate, review, share, and collaborate on the complex evidence of instruction in their classrooms. Teachers will use the mobile app to collect items using the upload function and to take artifacts, what are called artifacts, which include multimedia items such as photos of a completed class project, a video of students working on a lab together, uploads of documents such as exams or worksheets and things of that nature. And then they can annotate these items using the app to align them with standards and to reflect on their teachings. And then they can share these artifacts to shared portfolios so that their peers can review them and collaborate on them and edit them and comment. And it's really offers schools a powerful platform for discussion and collaboration regarding the classroom practices. So to take a look at how the data collection and data analysis works, we have to consider that there are 3 user roles for this research study, and having multiple user roles is very common in research because there are often different types of participants as well as always the researcher. So the teacher and the PLC lead, and the PLC lead is a teacher who leads a professional learning community, which is the team of teachers that are working on these shared portfolios and shared artifacts together. They're primarily interested in using the app for this data collection process and to work on their artifacts, the sharing of them, and the communication with their peers. The researcher also has the added function of administrative tasks and data analysis. They really want to review these portfolios and see how the research is going. So it's important to keep in mind these different user roles as we look at the designs. And of course, when we go to create designs for any research study, we want it to be user-centered. And this means we want to consider the experiences of the participants interacting with the app. So the wants and needs of the teachers, the PLC leads, and the researchers determine the design decisions along the way. Of course, we always want to increase the engagement with the app because this increases participation in the study, and we want all participants to be actively involved in the study. So we take a design thinking approach to this process. For Spiral Notebook, we started in by empathizing to develop user stories, working closely with the researchers to actually write out different personas or characters of teachers and how they use the app and how they interact with their peers on the app to collaborate. And this really helped us to define the user roles and functionality of the app. And of course, this helps us to ideate or understand the flow and tasks that need to be accomplished. All of this comes together in the prototypes, and this is where we communicate the options and approaches to the development team as well as to the client. And making these prototypes interactive helps us to do some initial testing to receive feedback and improve on the designs before we even go to code. In Spiral Notebook, collaboration is key. This process of a teacher copying an artifact, as you can see here on the left, and sharing it to a shared portfolio. And then the PLC team members going into this artifact and having the ability to edit it, save it so that the others can see it, to also to create a discussion around this artifact, adding initial reactions with emojis at the top, and adding comments and discussing it together and collaborating on it is very important. And of course, we also want to engage the users by notifying them. So we've added app notifications to remind the users to go in and complete their artifacts if they've just saved them partially done. Also let them know when they receive a new comment or receive a reaction so that they can go ahead and engage in the conversation and check their comments. So everything really comes together in the prototypes. This is where we experiment with ideas and provide a roadmap for the product's development. Prototypes can demonstrate structure, interactions, engagement, and visual elements. They can become very complex very quickly. Every one of these connectors represents an interaction. So anytime one button leads to go from what's called an artboard, one artboard to another, or if there's any interaction on the page, such as here you can see the drop down at the top, we have to show every part of that interaction. So for the drop down, the user then can click the prototype and show the drop down item. And then in the middle there, you see where the item has to be selected. And then on the third artboard, it has populated to the field. So every piece of the interaction from one screen needs to be drawn out in an artboard. And these connectors can bring them together in the interaction. There are a lot of different software that you can use out there available on the market. I use Adobe XD. UCLA provides an Adobe Creative Cloud account for all staff. And I use a lot of Adobe software in general. I use Illustrator for all of the logos and branding and vector icons, Photoshop for photo editing, as well as some of the animation and video editing software as well. So Adobe Creative Cloud applications integrate together really well. So this works for our team. I've also heard great things about Figma. And there are a lot of other options on the market as well. So whatever software option you would choose for your team, it's important to also use it to provide what are called design specs to the developers. And design specs can really help in the designer development communication, and they provide the developers with things such as measurements, positioning, colors, fonts, and code snippets. Developers can go in there and download raster images and vector graphics in different formats, such as PNG and SVG. So this is really important part of the process and of the handoff. Now we can organize these design specs into what are called design systems. And design systems are a great way to establish interface patterns for consistency. And they can include things such as colors, font styles, and components. And components are all of the UI elements, buttons, icons, and any interactive elements that are being used in the app. And they really can create a lot of flexibility to help maintain the repeated elements in the layout. And I will show you a little bit more about components in a minute. But they're a very important part of the design process. And with creating this design system, we really can develop the brand identity and the overall style of the app to keep that consistency strong. And we can do something very simple, such as creating artboards on the current document where we have these items all summarized, and then create what's called document assets from this. And then we can save those document assets as a library to share it with the team. And in this way, we can send it to the cloud and use it in other Adobe software and have other team members use these items and be able to access them easily. And this really helps create that brand consistency. We can also do something where we develop a design system documentation website. And there are some tools that can help in this process. The plugin Zeroheight is available for both XD and Figma. There's also a plugin called Frontify and a software called Zeppelin. Zeppelin, we've used that on our team. It has some great design system features, and it integrates with XD. So that's another great option as well. And now I'd like to go ahead and show you the actual interactive prototypes. Okay, so you can see the mobile app design file on my screen. And here in the top left, we have this design system laid out. And I have saved all of these colors, types, styles, and components to my document assets here on the left. I have it open for you to see. And then I have gone ahead and created a shared library here to the cloud that contains all of these items as well. And this is really a great way to increase the organization and collaboration when working on these design apps. And to look more specifically for the type styles, we can specify the scale so that developers will know how to size the different text and which weights are used and which styles are used in the app design. And of course, we have the specific colors that are being used as well. This really keeps everything consistent. And now looking at the components and how components work, I'm going to go into a little more detail regarding these. We have all these UI elements, buttons, and icons, and things that are used throughout the app in multiple places. For example, this header is used on a lot of different artboards, and this is the master component of it. So it's the initial component that was created when working on this. And you can tell that it was the initial one created because there's this diamond in the top left corner that's filled in with green. And it controls every instance of it. So components work a lot like symbols, if you've worked with symbols before. And I can go into this master component. I'm going to click into the blue rectangle. And I'm going to go ahead and select a different color. I'll choose gold. And then I'll show you the whole document. You can see that every artboard with the header at the top has changed the color. Every instance has been changed because we made a change to the master component. I'm going to just go ahead and undo that since we want the header item to be blue. And then we have this survey progress indicator. And we want this to change on the specific instances to show progress through the survey. So I'm going to go over to our actual survey here, and you can see that on different instances, this bar has been moved over. Each instance has an empty diamond here in the top left corner. And if we go ahead and change the indicator on one, as you can see, it doesn't change the indicator on any of the other artboards. So it's just the one instance that gets changed. And that's a little bit about the power of components and how they can be used in your design. Components also have states to them, and I'm going to show you a little bit about that in just a moment as well when we look at the survey itself. But first, I want to show you a little how to a simple interaction can be prototyped. And so let's take a look at these navigation items and the notifications in specific. So I'm going to open up the actual prototype screen here. And I'm going to click login. And here in the bottom nav, I have this notifications item. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this. And then this just shows a list of all of the notifications, as you would see in the app. And I'm going to go ahead and drag this to the left and then simply click on the delete button. And you can see the prototypes have the interaction and feel of working on your phone. And actually, it's good to note that you can access these prototypes through the Adobe XD phone app as well, so that the team can also preview it and get a feel for what it's like to actually use it on a mobile device. So in looking at the designs needed for that simple interaction, of course, we have to have a design for each state of the interaction. So the first state here, or the initial state, just have the full list of notifications here. And then there is a wire that connects this item to the next state of the interaction. And it's set to trigger it on a drag. And that means that I want it to happen when I drag to the left to really replicate what happens in our devices when we go to delete an email or another item. And the type of action here is set to auto animate. And that means that it will shift the items rather than transition it to another artboard, for example. And then, of course, we just have a simple animation of a trigger of a tap put on this delete button. Again, an auto animate so that it appears as if all the notifications move up when it goes to the next artboard. So that's how we can do a simple interaction with the prototypes. And I also want to show you a bit about this actual data collection process with the artifact survey. And I'm going to go ahead and actually go into the survey. So, you know, if I was a teacher in a classroom and you know, I need to pick up my device very quickly and take some pictures because students are working on a lab and I want to capture some element of it. As soon as I open the app, front and center is this ability to add the artifact. And first thing, I want to select which portfolio, which of my personal portfolios as a teacher that I'd like to add this artifact to. And now that I've selected this dropdown, I can click Add Photo. And here we have this segmented control UI. We can toggle between choosing a photo and taking a photo. And on the Take a Photo page, we have this flash icon so we can turn this on and off just by a simple interaction. And you see, I didn't need an additional artboard for that because this flash icon is actually a component with different states. So I'm going to go here and show you what that means on the artboard. So this icon here has the default state being turned on, and then a selected state of being turned off with the little X added here in the bottom right corner. And we can set the prototypes so that we can wire it so that upon a tap trigger, the interaction, it will toggle between the two. It's set to move between the two. The destination is to selected, and then when we have selected on, the destination is to default state. And in that way, we can make these components interactive and have multiple states to them. So that's a really useful way of working with components as well. I'm going to go ahead back to the choose photo. And here I have additional interactive components with multiple states. I'm going to select photos, and you can see the numbers appear here in the circles. And these numbers are for the instances. So the original component has just, the selected state has just one number in it. And then for each instance, we can customize what number that is and put that in there. And so that's how this process works to make it more interactive in the actual prototypes. And we can use these selected photos. And then this is where the teacher will enter the metadata for this artifact. Can use these different UI elements and select these tags. And the tags are also components with multiple states, and that's how we can turn them on and off by making them interactive with the prototypes. And then the teacher has the option to either save this for later at this point or continue to enter data about the artifact. I'm going to go ahead through the process and show you some more entering of data. This is where some text can be entered for the goal or purpose, about the teacher's learnings, some additional tags. And then we have this accordion UI. And there are 3 accordions here, which means there are 4 different states to this view. There's all of the accordions closed, and then each accordion opens. And we can actually move through this one screen in any order. We can open the accordions in any order. We can check these checkboxes. Again, they're interactive components with multiple states applied to them. And we can really get a feel for what it will be like for the teacher to enter these standards or elements of framework. And since there are so many, we really wanted to keep this design simple and easy to use. And here's another tag we can add, and one more tag, and then we can submit this artifact to the portfolio. So in this way, once the artifact has been saved to the personal portfolio, it would appear here in my portfolios. And then the teacher can go into it and edit it and make changes and then go ahead and share it, donating it to a shared portfolio here. And in the shared portfolio, that collaboration can occur that we talked about. That includes the PLC team commenting on it, reacting to it, and editing it. So I can show you a little bit how that works as well. I'm going to take a look at the platform, the dashboard here. And one thing that's really unique to the dashboard is that we have those 3 user roles. And for those 3 user roles, some of the designs and screens, they overlap, and some have differences between them. So it's important to create multiple flows to work through them and to make sure that it's clear which user role has which screen. So I'm going to show you how the prototypes work here. For the PLC leads and the teachers, they're focused in on seeing their portfolios, adding portfolios, sharing portfolios, and working with their invitations to join shared portfolios. They also have the ability to invite other peers to their shared portfolios as well. Let's go ahead and take a look at the shared portfolios so we can see a little bit how things are collaborated on. For the PLC lead, the PLC lead has the extra permissions to create a new shared portfolio, as well as when they leave a shared portfolio, they have to go through a process that you can see in this pop-up here, where they can actually switch who the new lead will be. They have to choose a new teacher that will take their place before leaving. For now, I'm going to go ahead and click on this artifact here at the top that is bolded because it hasn't been clicked on before. And here the teacher or PLC lead can go in and do a quick reaction with these specific emojis that the researchers selected, the bookmark, star, bridge, and question mark. And this is just a pop-up that's created in the prototype. And they can also look through the artifact. They can see the discussion that's occurring on it and comments. They can add their own replies and comments. And we can open up and edit one of our own comments, and save that or cancel. And can see how this process feels before it's even developed. You can also click this edit button here, where PLC leads and teachers can go in and make changes to the artifact. There's certain metadata that is set and of course can't be changed, but we can change the tags, edit the text, edit the standards or elements of framework, and more. So in this way, real collaboration can occur in the app and platform for this research study. So this gives you a little bit of a view of the process to create this app design. And we're very excited about the impact for the teachers. So I would like to thank you very much for joining me at this presentation, and I'd like to open the floor for any of your questions.
Hey, Lauren, we have a question in the chat from Anna Ahern. She says, thank you for sharing this project. What are some usability discoveries or changes you made while testing and building prototypes?
Great question. The prototypes really helped us with the user roles, and there were definitely some changes that happened with the permissions for different users, and we really were able to distinguish which things the PLC lead could do and which things the teachers could do. It also helped us define better the process of collecting the data. So we did have some changes in how the process worked from the home screen of the app for the uploading of the photo and taking of the photo. So those were definitely some key parts that went through a lot of iterations.
Thank you, Lauren.
Yeah. I'd also be happy to show any additional features of the software if anyone had any questions regarding things that Adobe XD can do or what we can do with prototyping.
We have some comments in the chat saying, great talk, Lauren. Thank you from Catherine Yanga.
Well, thank you. Okay, great. Well, if anyone has any other questions, here's my email, and please feel free to message me, and I hope you have a great time at the rest of the conference. Thank you so much, and thanks to Omar for hosting.
Oh, thank you, Lauren. It was a great presentation. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. All right.